The window of tolerance comes from the neuroscientist Dan Siegel. And Dan is some of you might know him, but he's an author, he's a parent, he's a great teacher. He's in the US in California. And about 20 years ago, he proposed this model called the window of tolerance. And it has been applied in many different systems. Dan studied complexity theory and systems theory. But here today, we're going to talk about how the window applies to the nervous system, working with our minds and bodies. The idea with the window of tolerance is that for all of us, there is a window which we can most effectively tolerate our moment-to-moment experience. This is like a middle ground. And when we are in our window, we're most likely to feel connected to ourselves, to feel steady, regulated. We'll talk more about what that means. This is where our heart, it's like it's beating, but it's not racing. We might feel energized, but we don't feel anxious. Yeah, this is this middle ground where we can be most effective in our lives. So that's the idea with a window, kind of like a sweet spot. Now, on either side of this window, and this will relate to trauma, we'll talk about this, are two different zones. And these zones have different terms. The first zone is something known as hyperarousal. Now, this is where we have too much energy in our minds and bodies. Hyper, meaning there's a lot of. And arousal is meaning physiological arousal. That's not, what that means is literally the energy that we have in a moment. So some examples, I'll be giving you a long list here. Some examples of hyperarousal is when we feel very anxious, or we feel like hypervigilant, like we're on edge. Maybe we have you know how sometimes there's a loud noise and we get really scared, like a exaggerated startle response. Our heart is beating very quickly, pupils dilated. This is what hyperarousal is. Now, on the other end, we have something known as hypoarousal, meaning that there is little or no energy in the nervous system. This is where we experience feeling foggy, numb, dissociated. There's an absence of sensation. We might feel kind of checked out. So that is the idea here with the window of tolerance. This middle zone, hyperarousal, and then hypoarousal. The reason this is important for us here is that trauma will tend to push us outside of our window of tolerance. When we experience trauma, both in the moment and then in the future, if we're experiencing post-traumatic stress, we will be experiencing hyper or hypoarousal.